Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for part 2 of the Q&A, so let's go ahead and get this started and knock it out for the day. Alright, first question. If powerlifting became a mainstream sport with lots of money involved, I know this will never happen, but let's just talk hypothetically. Do you think there will be even higher world records due to a larger genetic pool to choose from, or top genetic freaks already there and they would stay the same? Because when someone is genetically elite, he is more likely to go to the NFL and make millions instead of doing powerlifting where he gets almost nothing in return. Honestly, you're not going to see changes in the record so much because you already see the freaks and stuff coming out of Russia. The Russian powerlifters actually set a lot of the world records. Those guys are already putting genetic freaks in there. Here in the West, you are right, a lot of our genetic freaks go into other sports like the NFL, but they're not necessarily all the best freaks for actual maximum power and strength. That's something you need to keep in mind. The NFL requires a higher degree of athleticism, and it's not focused on just a couple of attributes like powerlifting is. So there's no guarantee that the NFL players would come in and dominate by any means. But I can tell you who could come in and dominate. It's going to be the top Olympic lifters around the world. That's your genetic elite for strength. Look how many elite Olympic lifters you see out there who lift mind-boggling amounts of weight. Look how common in Olympic lifting it is for men who weigh less than 200 pounds to squat with a high bar squat, ass to grass at pause with no belt and no wraps and just squat it like it's nothing. How many guys do you see in powerlifting can do that? Like, go look for yourself with a beltless high bar squat. How many powerlifters around the world can squat that raw for 500 plus while weighing less than 200 pounds? Almost none. There's a small handful of guys around the world doing it, right? And again, we're talking raw. No wraps, no belt, nothing. It's extremely rare. It's fairly common in Olympic lifting. So think about the strength differences there. Or think about if, like Dmitry Koklov decided to get into powerlifting and focus on powerlifting exclusively for 1 year. Is there any doubt in your mind that he would break world records? No, you're thinking just in terms of America. We don't have all just the best genetics guaranteed here. But I think you would see world records fall because of all of the elite genetics who care about world records and being in a professional, internationally recognized Olympic sport. They go to Olympic lifting already. And if you saw a bunch of those guys transition over, or girls, the women, it would be even more brutal. Like, the gap would be even larger, actually. So the women's records would be the first to fall, and then men's would be falling behind them. But yeah, if they all came over, that would be the end of it. They would be the only ones competitive. All right, next question. Is there any way to cure lactose intolerance or any medication supplements that will ease its symptoms temporarily? I'm lactose intolerant, but I love milk and would like to enjoy a couple of cups every once in a while. Also, I heard that consuming small amounts of milk over long periods of time might actually cause the body to gradually tolerate lactose. Is this true? No, the latter is absolutely not true. This is the sort of horseshit that people come up with who basically don't know what they're talking about, and they just want to hurt you and make you sick because they're stupid. And I'll just be blunt with that. Let's just be honest there. Now, that being said, if you chronically take in something that you have an intolerance to, in this case, you don't have the actual enzyme to digest it, no, you will over time cause yourself chronic health issues and problems as a result of it, even consuming the small amount. So no, you don't want to do that. All you're doing is maybe staying under an amount that your body can tolerate. You haven't increased your tolerance. And again, you're always riding an edge with that of having a problem. There is no cure for it. However, what you can do, because what lactose intolerance is that we stop producing the enzyme lactase that we have as babies, as newborn babies and infants, so that we can handle our mother's breast milk. All mammals have this, because otherwise it's a very complex sugar that's difficult to digest and break down, but this enzyme allows you to do it. What you can do, you can buy milk that already has the enzyme added, that is already processed all of that. So if you get like lactate type milk or things like that, it will handle it for you. It's already taken the enzyme that your body doesn't produce. It's been put in the milk and it's sat there and it's handled it. And that will eliminate your lactose intolerance. So that's what you can do. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Get milk that has a lactase enzyme added to it, so that since your body can't produce it, to help you digest it. And you're not going to notice a difference. It still tastes like milk. So that's pretty much your option there. But you're not going to be able to cure it. It's not going to go away. You're just simply going to have to drink milk that has the enzyme added in. All right, next question. Hi Jason, should you relax in the bottom position of a pull-up / chin-up, allowing more range of motion but possibly putting the shoulder in a less safe position? Or should you keep your shoulder back and down the entire time? All right, this is going to be a controversial answer, and it has to do with thinking about the normal range of motion of an exercise. When I talk about full range of motion, I don't mean that you hyperextend things beyond what their normal strength pattern is and potentially injure yourself or put things in bad anatomical positions. I mean you do the full range of motion for the normal lift. And in that case, you can actually drop to a bottom of a chin-up or a pull-up and hold it there. For example, as low as you can go while maintaining tight and actually pause for a 1 count, that should be your normal range of motion. It's when you start pulling the scapula back apart, and I know that's useful for maybe lat development. You might get some additional lat development out of it, but it is not an anatomically great position to put your shoulders in to actually stretch the lats completely at the bottom. So like if you guys notice, people complain about mine. I got a lot of flack for that myself when I did my weighted chin-ups. Guys are like, you're not going all the way down, but they notice I pause at the bottom. And I would point out to people, yeah, because I just didn't let the joint and the, slide out and my scapula spread apart, but I stayed tight and I paused at the bottom on weighted chin-ups. So that should tell people that I'm not like shortchanging it. It's actually fairly hard to do that. I'm going all the way down and pausing at the bottom of the normal range of motion, but not allowing another joint to move separately to add additional to it. And I think that's a difference people need to keep in mind. And with a little more complex movement like that, there is some ambiguity as to what a full range of motion is. And even things like deadlifts, I mean, we can get into arguments about what a full range of motion actually is subject to controversy on certain exercises, and you've got to keep that in mind. I am of the opinion, and again, it's my opinion, that it's simply safer to keep the scapula retracted to some extent and not let them spread all the way apart and stretch at the bottom to overextend the exercise to do that. And I would point out that you need to be strong enough to drop down with the weight you're using to the point to where they almost do and be able to pause it and pull yourself back up, not just bounce out of it, because some guys are doing that to try to shortchange it to use a heavier weight. But that's also dangerous because what's going to end up happening is eventually they're going to overextend that joint anyways if they're doing a jerky fast pull up at the bottom sometimes. If they're not used to being able to control it there and stop at that point, they're eventually going to slip, just like guys who do partial bench presses are eventually going to tear a pec when the bar goes too far because they haven't built the strength through that range of motion and they accidentally slip into it. So that is a risk, but as long as you can control it to that point to where the scapula almost spread apart and you stop it there and you're able to pause if you need to, then you're using an appropriate weight. You'll be okay. Go ahead and do it that way. But yeah, I don't recommend the full deep stretch at the bottom just because of the potential risks and of, again, overextending the joint there and causing some problems for yourself. But that's just my opinion. All right, next question. And this is going to be the last question of the week. It's a very long question, so let me break it down. I have a question about taking an extended break from lifting. I went on vacation for 18 days back to the U.S. I just got back 2 days ago. I didn't lift the whole time. However, I could feel my back. I'm not sure what that means. Not pain, okay. Not pain, but just a different feeling. And yesterday and today, actual pain. I have experienced this before and knew it may happen again. As far as my history goes, I did get injured while in the military years ago and completely quit lifting and got fat. Going against the doctor's advice, I started lifting again as of 2 years ago. I haven't been injured at all since, but have pain with an extended break when an extended break occurs, and this is even with a significant weight loss. Here are my numbers. My body weight, I'm 340. I lost 64 pounds, but have gained a good amount of muscle. Squat 490 raw, bench 390 raw, deadlift 475 raw. All right, unfortunately for you, I would say hopefully you have some private insurance also, because these days the VA sucks and physical therapy at the VA is horrific. I know a lot of guys who are complaining about it right now. The VA is just simply not doing its job. Normally I would tell you otherwise. You should go to the VA and consider having a physical therapist check everything out. But the other thing I'm going to say is, first of all, congratulations on the weight loss. I'm glad you've been able to do that, particularly after coming back from being injured and everything in the military. So, but Here's what I have to point out to you, brother. You need to continue to lose more weight. You're sitting above 300 pounds, and you're having some back issues every time you take time off from training. You're getting intense pain in your back. You're simply putting too much stress on your back day to day with the body weight you're carrying around. You really need to lose another 50 pounds, maybe more. I'm not sure quite how tall you are. I think you appear to be a pretty tall guy. You need to get under 300 pounds, brother. Not just for your heart and your overall health, but for your back also. You're carrying that extra weight on your back, and when it ended up happening, you detrained in that 18 days. You quit squatting, you quit deadlifting, you lost mobility because you didn't do any of your squatting. And by losing that mobility, you lost some flexibility, and you loaded your spine differently in your training. In addition to the fact that you're walking around compressing your spine because you're still overweight, you're carrying too much body weight, and you're compressing your spine a lot, and that's just a bad combination. So you really need to lose the extra weight, and next time you're going to have to take time off from training for a vacation. You need to keep your mobility work up. You need to be doing flexibility stuff. You need to be doing third world squats, squatting to a box, keeping your hamstring stretched out. Okay, you have to do that stuff if you're going to take long periods of time off from training, because you're squatting over 400 pounds with a heavy body weight. That's a pretty hefty amount of weight. That's a lot of stress on the spine. You can't afford to lose the mobility that you had from training every week. You can't afford to lose that, particularly with that extra body weight, because what's going to end up happening, you're changing the biomechanics of your lifts when you come back. You're putting additional stress on your spinal erectors and spine when you come back because you're able to lift so heavy. And you've changed the bar path, the biomechanics, the way your hips move, by letting everything tighten back up too much and losing that mobility. And then in addition to that, you're carrying around extra body weight on top of it that's going to continue to compress it and make it hurt even worse and possibly injure you further. So that's what you really need to do, brother. You need to lose at least another 50 pounds. And I mean, the 64 is fantastic so far. So you can do it. You've done it before. And then on top of that, you really have to keep your mobility and flexibility up if you're forced to take time off from training with the kind of weights you're lifting. And that should sort you out. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.